Andy, you have been in Hong Kong as a principal clarinet in the Hong Kong Philharmonic over 30 years. Can you please tell us the most memorable concerts you have had with this company?
Well, there have been many, but I would say chronologically speaking, 1989 was when we opened the hall, which is actually just a little more than 30 years. We opened the hall, and it was at the same period as Princess Diana and Prince Charles' only visit together to Hong Kong, who attended the performance. And it was that concert that taught me a little bit about British royalty protocol in terms of how many bars you play for different royals of God Save the Queen. In their case, it wasn't the entire song, but for the Queen it would have been. During the same period, some of the soft openings of the hall, we played with the late, great vocalist Jessie Norman. And what I remember, it was extremely hot and humid, and she was extremely sensitive to air conditioning. So she insisted that all the air conditioning be off. And I remember we were just sweating terribly, and the entire audience was using the programs to fan themselves. And as an encore, she did a cappella Amazing Grace, which was just tremendous. And she turned around a little bit to look at the orchestra, and the power of her voice literally felt like the centrifugal force was forcing you back in your seat. I also remember in 1997, just over there, we performed the handover. The first time a territory had been moved from one country's jurisdiction to another. And of course, Governor Patner was there, and that was an extremely memorable experience. And finally, just before he died, I remember performing with the late great vocalist again, Luciano Pavarotti. Luciano Pavarotti, and us performed the duet from Tosca by Puccini, famous duet for tenor and clarinet. And what I remember was I thought I knew the part very, very well. I had actually performed it with him before. I performed with Domingo. I performed it in the orchestra, in the pit, many times. But this time he stopped and he said, clarinetto, less square and more distant. And then he sang my solo from beginning to end. He serenaded me with my solo, the clarinet solo, in front of 100 colleagues. And having a little bit more hair back then, it just stood up in complete amazement. And I really learned the value of vocal influence on instrumental playing from that.
Great, great. And as a part of your job, you have to do many solo concerts as well. About that, I would like to ask you if you want to give us some tips on what was your one of the memorable time you did some solo in Asia and in Hong Kong.
Well, again, in exactly the same place, we played a symphony under the stars. We played for 20,000 people. I did the Mozart Clarinet Concerto with our music director, Jaap van Sweden, and my 85-year-old mother came to attend. And I remember they put her up on the Jumbotron, and she became an overnight or over-minute celebrity. Immediately there was a queue or line of 15 people lining up to take selfies with her. And she said that they sent over champagne and chocolates, and that was a truly memorable experience for both my mother and me. Also in 2018, I remember doing the Copland Clarinet Concerto with, again, our music director, Jaap van Sweden. But this was interesting because the world was celebrating Leonard Bernstein's 100th anniversary, and they had flown over his daughter, Nina, to do some projects in Hong Kong. She attended the performance. The next night, Dvorak's great-granddaughter attended the performance, and in both cases they came backstage to say hello, and I thought, wow, I'm really in the presence of classical music royalty. Also, probably, well, not connected to the orchestra, I'd have to say in 1992, I became the first non-Korean-born American classical musician to perform in North Korea. I was a guest of the government for Kim Il-sung, that's the grandfather of Kim Jong-un, his 80th birthday party, which was considered the biggest event of the century in North Korea, and that was indeed a very, very memorable experience. Finally, I performed Academy Award-winning composer John Curigliano's Meteoric Clarinet Concerto, which has since become a rite of passage. It's so challenging, in 1999. But I had the wonderful opportunity to study the work with him, and I learned a great deal. So those are probably my most memorable musical experiences in my time here in Hong Kong.
Great.
Lorenzo, you've been a member of the Hong Kong Philharmonic as bass clarinetist since 2015. However, I know that you also performed as a full-time member of 3 other orchestras in 3 other major cities. How have the jobs differed from one another, and the experience of living in those cities differed from one another?
So I have been, my first job was when I was 19 in Rome, and the orchestra used to play in the Vatican City, and I used to sleep in one of the monasteries that they were kind of linked with the orchestra. And it was a very, was my first experience. I learned a lot. It was a symphonic orchestra, and I basically played most of the Shostakovich and the Prokofiev and Mahler repertoire, which was extremely important for me to build up the repertoire. And after that experience, I got a job. I won the position in Madrid in the Royal Opera House, which is also called the Orquesta Sinfónica de Madrid. And I was there for 3 years. I used to live in the center of the city. Of course, a huge difference from passing from the Vatican place to a very young and modern city of Madrid, and it was very exciting. And that was opera, so it was a little bit different than playing a symphony orchestra. You play most of the time in the pit, which is quite challenging. And but a great experience again, playing all the Wagner repertoire or even Puccini or Verdi repertoire. Then I won the position in the London Symphony Orchestra. I was 23 years old, and of course moving to London, that's completely a new experience for me, especially because you are with this orchestra, you tour every 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and the symphonic repertoire. I basically traveled around the world during this time. I was there for 8 years, and you do many different kind of concerts as well. And after that, I came to Hong Kong, and it's been great so far. And symphonic repertoire again, and you just play in this incredible city. So when you finish the concert and you just get out and you have the images of this kind of amazing city, I think it's just great. Yeah.
As a member of the London Symphony, I'm sure many of our viewers would be delighted to know that all those bass clarinet solos in the Harry Potter movies were played by you. What was that experience like?
Being part of the London Symphony, you are required to play in many soundtracks to record, to do like the proper sound score for movies that happens in Hollywood. And there was a few times we had to do recording the new saga of Harry Potter, and I didn't only play the bass clarinet in this occasion, but also I had to play contrabass clarinet. And usually it's fun because every time there was a bass clarinet or contrabass clarinet was always put in a really dodgy moment of the movie. So every time there was a really sad things happens, there would be kind of a solo going on of bass. But not only that, and another great experience was that most of this recording happens in Abbey Road, where Beatles used to record there, even Von Karen used to be there, and it's just great to be there because there are 3 studios, and you happen to be in a bar with with the very famous pop singers, and you eat with the great singers, classical singers, maybe recording in the other room, and that's, I think, is the exciting part. It's very challenging because you have to record sometimes for 10 hours. You cannot make any noise, and you have a click in your head, in your ear all the time. So and you basically side read every single score they give you in the morning. So in the morning you have a pack of 60 pages, and you just have to go through all that, and you don't have time to practice. So you have to be very fast in sight reading.
Lorenzo, you haven't been here a very long time, but it seems a lot has changed in your life while you have in Hong Kong. I know that you came here as two, you and your wife, who also plays in the orchestra, cello in the orchestra. How many of you are there now?
Since when I came in Hong Kong, yeah, we came in two, me and my wife, and now we are 4 people. So I have 2 daughters in the meantime, and they born in Hong Kong, and yeah, they are growing in this fantastic city, and yeah, very excited for the future.